Hey, welcome. This is going to be my very first ever YouTube video, my official start to YouTube. And I don't know, I've been thinking for like months, years, how the perfect first YouTube video would be. And I always thought that I would have these like big ideas about it. But yeah, when it comes down to it, like I want my followers to be like my besties and like my friends. And I don't know. I feel like as I get older, I miss the moments where all of my friends and I would like be sitting in a car and talking, and we'd be up so late at night, 2, 3 in the morning, just like sitting in the car, having a good time, and we didn't need anything other than each other. I just felt like this would be a very good way to start off my channel. So here we are. Hello. My name's Holly, if you didn't already know. And I am currently on the probably the biggest spiritual healing path that I've ever been on in my entire life. And I can say that with a pretty good amount of certainty. After I had my daughter, Christmas, now a year and a half ago, I just like opened a portal for me of this like feminine energy and this intuition. And I've just been on this path to healing and to learning and growing. And it's been so wonderful. I've just become an entirely different human. And I want to share what I've experienced with you guys. So that's what my channel is going to be about. A lot of just me yapping. I also work in a metaphysical store. I got Reiki attunements, which I think I'm going to talk about in this video because it's a big chunk of like what's been going on in my life. So I think I'm going to talk about that. I got my Usui Holy Fire Reiki attunements for level 1 and 2, and I do plan on becoming a master later this year so that I can officially teach Reiki to others. I'll go into that in a little bit. I'm currently sitting at a park. My daughter is sleeping in the back seat, and I just felt like this was going to be the very perfect start for me. Grab whatever you like to drink, grab whatever you want to snack on, and let's chat. My drink of choice, if you didn't already know, if you don't follow me on my other socials, my drink of choice is always going to be Liquid Death. Dr. Death is one that I drink a lot. I don't know if it's my favorite, but Caleb always gets it for me. So I guess I'll talk about my Reiki attunements and like the little bit of like spiritual psychosis I think I went through after I got them. I feel like I feel so called to talk about Reiki and my experience with my Reiki attunements. One, because it was like such a huge leap. It was such a huge leap for me in my spiritual journey. Two, because I have seen Reiki help people and I want people to know more about it. And three, I want to talk about spiritual psychosis because that shit is scary. And I definitely, I want to say I believe that I went through it, but I definitely went through it. I went through a spiritual psychosis after my very first Reiki attunement. And I was so lucky. I am so lucky to have a Reiki master that I don't like, she's just available for me. After I got my Reiki attunements, I came to her and explained what I was going through, and just I was immediately able to find that space, that safe space in her. And I feel like as I talk about my Reiki attunements and my experience and all that kind of stuff, I just want to make it clear that this kind of spiritual awakening, spiritual psychosis, spiritual path, like you have to have someone that you can confide in. Like it will drive you crazy. I'm definitely getting ahead of myself. I will start at the beginning of this little awakening that I had, which was having my daughter. I don't know. I feel like I definitely I want to say that it started when I got pregnant with her. And I have always been very into meditation, into manifestation, into yoga, into spiritual things, into witchcraft, things like that. When I had her, like, life just felt different. Like, when I got pregnant with her, I was having dreams of, like, her speaking to me, of seeing her. I was envisioning light a lot. I would envision light, like, in my womb. Basically, I would envision that that light was, like, keeping her safe, I guess, and that I was able to connect with her through that light. If you didn't already know, working with Reiki, you are basically working with light. I mean, you're working with universal life energy, you know, and you imagine light often. So the fact that I was doing that at the beginning of my pregnancy just makes me feel like that was when this all really began for me. They say that Reiki finds you before you find it, kind of. Yeah, at the beginning of my pregnancy, I was basically working. I was healing, and it was really hard for me at the beginning of my pregnancy. I mean, the entire pregnancy was hard for me, but the beginning of my pregnancy, I was very terrified because I have had a miscarriage before. Pretty much every day, I thought that I was going to miscarry the baby. Halfway through my pregnancy, I started having a lot of health problems. I started having a lot of bleeding, a lot of cramping, a lot of just like weird things happening. And I told the doctors it was past. I actually had a midwife, but it was past the time that they do the like gender scan. They weren't going to do another scan towards the end of my pregnancy, but I told them like I just have a weird feeling. Can we do another one? It turned out that my daughter does have a heart defect. She has several, but we didn't know for sure. At the middle of the pregnancy, you know, they had to do the echocardiograms through my belly. So they couldn't clearly see, and she was so small, and so they couldn't clearly see that specific defects, those specific defects that she had. And so just another thing where it's like my intuition was telling me that something was not right, and I was lucky to have a midwife that just listened to me and said, okay, cool, like whatever you want to do, let's check it out. After I had my daughter, it turns out that her heart defects were luckily not as bad as they thought that they would be, and she did not have to have heart surgery when she was born, which is wonderful. But it was still just like a very hard thing. It was hard on my partner and I, it was hard on me, it was hard. You know, we were constantly in and out of the hospital. She did have a couple NICU stays. And so I had this image of this birth. As a woman, you just see birth as either extremely terrifying or as extremely empowering. And I have always wanted a natural birth. I've always wanted, you know, as little hands on me and the baby as possible. I wanted to go home, I wanted to rest, I wanted to be with my partner, and that just didn't happen for me. And I sit here today and I know that that part of my motherhood journey had to happen for me to get where I am today, but it was absolute hell going through. I dealt with a lot of health issues. I was in and out of the hospital a lot after I had my daughter. Turns out our house had mold, lots and lots of mold. I'm very allergic to mold, so I had mold poisoning. I got diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease. I got diagnosed with POTS. I had C. diff, even though I had no antibiotics. It was a really hard time post-pregnancy for me. As a mother, all you want to do is be healthy for your child so that your child can be healthy and can live a good life. I also struggle with a lot of muscular and skeletal problems, including in my neck, so constantly nursing just kind of gave me migraines I have never experienced before. And I've experienced migraines. It felt like my brain was coming out of my body. That's like the best way I can describe it without really going into it. It felt like my brain was like above my head, or like out my ears, or like popping out of my eyes. If you struggle with migraines, you understand. If you don't, thank God. Was dealing with all those health issues, dealing with Western medicine doctors. It was just really hard. And I think that the hardest part was going to doctors and expecting that they cared and wanted to care and wanted to be capable of helping me. And I just didn't find that. I just didn't have that experience. I refused to take medication. They were trying to give me Botox. They were trying to get me on all sorts of anxiety medications. The list of medications that I was given, like prescriptions that I was given, I feel like could fill a notebook. I'm glad and I'm proud of myself for not giving in. I'm proud of myself for not giving in, which is part of my story. My daughter was born on Christmas 2024, and then by the end of the year, I believe it was by the end of the year, may have been the early January, but I think that it was late December, I found my Reiki master. I thought, what do I have to lose? The first class, it was around $230. I was reading about Reiki, and in my day-to-day meditation, my day-to-day practices, it felt so close to what the descriptions of Reiki are online. I immediately booked it. We have been struggling with money because we have a baby. We're a growing family. Caleb was on board and was like, you need to do this for yourself. This is great. This will be great for you. I believe in you. All these things. I originally wanted to take the class just for me, as a way to help in my healing mentally, spiritually, physically. Nothing else was working. Actually, that's not true. Shout out to my girl Lindsay Perkins, my acupuncturist, because she's amazing and acupuncture does wonderful things. Long term and day-to-day life, nothing was helping me. It got to a point that I was walking with a cane. I could barely walk from one side of the house to the other side of the house. Physically, I was dependent on Caleb so much. Mentally, so dependent on him. Spiritually, there was just nothing going on. I felt like a shell of a human. Again, found Reiki, and I was just, what do I have to lose? I was a little bit nervous in the Reiki class. When I showed up, there were 3 other people that were also taking the class because it was a group, and I felt so safe, but I felt as if something huge was happening for me. It was. During a Reiki attunement class, I'm gonna pause right here and apologize for saying so much and so and like. I'm hoping that that gets better. So yes. God, I gotta stop. Smack my hand. I almost did again. At the beginning of the class, I was super nervous and just kind of, I hadn't really been away from my daughter that often. I was only working part-time on the weekends for like 5-hour shifts at a bar downtown, and it just felt like I was stepping into a new era of my life. And again, I was. When the class started, we kind of introduced ourselves, and it seemed like we all kind of had something in common, which was that we did come from religious backgrounds, although we didn't practice or identify with those religious backgrounds any longer. So we didn't really talk too much about that in the class, but that is something that I would love to do a video on and will be doing a video on at some point. So through the class, there were 2 guided meditations where you get your attunements, and that's when the Reiki master kind of goes through and gives you these attunements. The attunements are given through symbols, symbols that the Reiki master will draw in the air or over you, etc. Might not make sense, so maybe I'll make a video about like the actual history of Reiki, but I'm just giving like the basics, I guess, today. I experienced crazy wild things through that attunement process. Through the guided meditations, I felt like I was twirling, spinning, flipping, getting small, getting big. It felt like I was traveling through dimensions during these guided meditations. Lots of light, felt like cosmic. That's the best way to explain it. I was so proud of myself for going through with it, just even stepping in the door of that class. I had felt so nuts. I had felt so crazy for a year because all the doctors were telling me, like, are you sure you don't have anxiety? Why don't you take this anxiety medication? Really, I didn't need an anxiety medication. I just needed Reiki. I needed healing. I needed energy work. I didn't need medications. I didn't need intervention in the way that Western medicine gives intervention to my situation. Okay, I want to put this out there as well. I do not disagree with Western medicine. I think that things like antibiotics and things like, I'm sorry if my car is like shaking. Is it? I don't know. I don't disagree with Western medicine as parts, but I do disagree with it as a whole. The way that I was treated just changed my opinion on it completely. I don't remember where I was. There's just so much to be said. Yeah, so I was so proud of myself for just being there, and after the first set of meditations, I kind of lost it. I started getting hives all over my body. I had to leave the room. I started panicking, and I kind of was vocal about that to everyone in the class. I was like, guys, I'm kind of freaking out. Like, I've had a lot of health issues, and having hives and things like that have just been a really big trigger for me mentally. No one really said anything, and my Reiki master, I could just tell she was there for me, but she wasn't really saying much either. And she shared, I think a little bit later, that she also had that kind of experience when she went through her first attunement. I got home later that evening. Caleb and I kind of celebrated a little bit because this was so big for me. Just stepping out of my comfort zone after having my daughter was so big for me that this was the biggest thing I had done in just about 2 years. As someone that is constantly wanting to move, wanting to grow, like, almost 2 years is a really long time to not do anything towards your growth, towards bettering yourself, or just like experiencing life in a new way. It was really great, but I was practicing Reiki every single day, doing self-healing practices, and I was experiencing lots of things that I couldn't explain but felt normal. What I mean by that was I was experiencing past lives, bits and pieces of past lives. I was experiencing being able to communicate with deceased family members. I was being reached out to by spiritual powers, higher powers, and I kind of lost my shit. for lack of better words. I lost my shit a little bit. I didn't want to leave the house without sunglasses on, was like one of the things. I was constantly like feeling like I was gonna see something every time I turned my head. I actually did start seeing forms again. Say again because when I was very young, I did see spiritual beings in physical forms a lot. It kind of felt like I had opened a door that I had shut for a reason, and I also opened it for a reason, and I knew that it was my time. Yeah, there I was in the middle of a spiritual psychosis. asking my Reiki master, what the fuck did you do to me? But it wasn't anything that she did to me, and Reiki attunements don't always do this for people, but they can sometimes. The Reiki master had also given me Reiki during one of my one-on-ones with her after, when I started this psychosis type episode. The way that I experienced a Reiki healing was insanely physical. Insanely physical. It was mental as well and intuitive, and I felt all of my senses opening up to experience this healing, and it was beautiful and wonderful and terrifying. I was terrified. I felt like I wanted to sleep with the lights on at night. And I guess I always kind of have been the type of person that loves the spiritual things, loves, wanting to communicate with the dead and talk to spirits. And, I love that kind of stuff. But I've always been terrified. And part of that goes back to religious trauma, which is not this video. I will make a video about that. Trust, I will make a video about that. After some time, and after my Reiki master taught me very, very, very helpful grounding techniques and exercises, I was able to come back down a little bit. I was still experiencing all of the things that I was experiencing, but I was able to control the strength of which they were coming in. Now, I mentioned to my Reiki master that when I was going to work, I was hearing, I don't know how to describe it, chatter. I was hearing chatter in my head. It felt like every time I was around a lot of people, I was hearing this chatter. And it's not like I'm hearing people's thoughts or think people are speaking to me or whatever, but it was very much like I just could hear all of the energy. Through grounding and protecting my own energy, I was able to quiet that down a lot. But it was really hard. It was really a hard thing to go through, and I felt like I was going through it alone. If it weren't for my Reiki master and being able to reach out to her when I was experiencing things or when things were popping up for me in Reiki healings, I don't know what I would have done. Luckily for me, Caleb is also very intuitive and has worked on himself really, 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 a lot. Spiritually, so he does understand the things that I was going through to a certain degree. His style of spiritual healing is a little bit different than mine, which whatever, that's how everybody is. He is more so to sit in a sweat lodge and hallucinate and take psychedelics, and that is just not me. I would freak the fuck out. He was very supportive through that time, and I'm so glad that I had him, and I have never felt uncomfortable coming to him saying, hey, I have this weird feeling, or hey, I feel like I just saw a little girl in the hallway when I opened the door and I'm kind of wigging out. He would always support me, and he'd always calm me down. He'd always help ground me. That is what I needed in that moment and in that phase of my life, and so I'm so thankful for him. I did go on to get my second Reiki attunements because after taking the first class for me, I almost immediately got, even through my spiritual psychosis that I was going through, almost immediately got my LLC, starting aligned spirit healing. I immediately knew that what I had just learned and what I just felt and what I just got attuned with, I was supposed to use to help other people. It was just too strongly innate with me, for me, whatever, and I just knew this was my calling. And I don't necessarily think that Reiki in general is my calling per se, but healing, helping people heal, is my calling in life. I did go on to get my second Reiki attunements. Luckily didn't have any crazy spiritual psychosis episode or further episode. I didn't get any worse. I did feel different after my second Reiki attunement. The class was very similar, besides just already kind of knowing and feeling that energy and having that energy and having that knowing. I was lucky. I don't want to say lucky, but I feel like I was lucky because my class was just me and my Reiki master, because the other woman that had signed up couldn't be there. It was just me one-on-one getting all of the attention that I felt like I needed, and I was able to ask every question that came to my mind. We were able to do a healing. Within several weeks of getting my first Reiki attunement, I got very, very ill. I had the rotavirus and I was hospitalized away from my family because I think it was after my second attunement. I can't exactly remember. I think it was after my second attunement. Yeah, I got the rotavirus from Ruka, my daughter. I was in the hospital. I was pooping and vomiting my brains out. TMI, sorry, but it happened. It's real life. And it was after my second Reiki attunement, because when I told my Reiki master, she said, "Your body was purging. Your body was purging what no longer serves you." And I almost died. I had heart problems from how horrible it was, the rotavirus was for me. I lost a bunch of weight. I lost a bunch of like essential vitamins in your body. I had to get fluids probably like 10 times. And yeah, I was hospitalized, had to get medicated. My body was purging, and I do believe that. I wish that I didn't have to get hospital care and Western medicine care to support me during that time, but I did, and I'm glad that it's there, or I may not have made it. After you get your Reiki attunements, you're not supposed to, but you are supposed to practice on yourself every day for like a certain amount of days. I believe it's like 21 days. And that just kind of wasn't possible for me to do. I mean, I guess I could have done it laying in the hospital bed, but I was really ill. I got better, and that was kind of a journey of its own. It took several weeks for me to recover, if not like a month, for me to recover from having the rotavirus and being in the hospital. It was really hard. I felt really scared that I was backtracking and that I wasn't going to get better, and that was just another round of medical issues that I wasn't going to heal from, wasn't going to have answers, wasn't going to have, whatever, was going to have to keep going to the doctor, was going to have to keep going to the hospital. Luckily, that wasn't the case. I believe that through Reiki, I was able to heal faster than I would have, because when I did start feeling better, I did utilize Reiki healing on myself every single day. And I was learning to put up those boundaries energetically and spiritually, and I was able to communicate with my guides. I do unfortunately think that purge was necessary, and although it was terrifying and it was sickly and it was disgusting, again, I'm glad it happened. It sucks now. Like, it almost sucks. It doesn't suck, but it almost sucks to look back and think something that was so hard to go through was good for me. The rotavirus was good for me, and I hate saying it. But my Reiki master was right. She told me that it was good for me. She told me I was purging, and it really was. Several months after getting my attunement, maybe not even several months, just a couple, a metaphysical store opened a block away from where I was working, and my boss at the time was telling me about the store. I went to go check it out, and the owner, Patrick, and I felt like just had a connection. We understood each other on a level energetically. He's a wonderful person. His wife is a wonderful person. They just get it. I came to him with this idea, and I said, or I asked him, can I practice Reiki in your shop? And I was expecting it to be harder than it was, but he was like, yeah, we've got a room already set up. Beautiful room. Beautiful room. Exactly my energy. Exactly what I envision in my mind when I think of me, like a space for me to heal in. And if I can put a picture, if I can figure that out, I will put a picture here. It just felt like everything was right. the sea was parting. The sea was parting for me. Path was opening up for me to practice Reiki, to heal people with Reiki, to heal people, period, to heal myself, period. This has been an incredible journey, and now I work at said metaphysical shop part-time, and I'm practicing Reiki there. I'm selling products infused with Reiki. I'm doing Reiki at EDM shows. I am doing events, like Reiki healing events. I just cannot imagine what my life would have looked like if I hadn't just jumped and taken that class when I found it. I can't imagine what my life would have looked like without my daughter coming into it. I can't imagine what my life would have looked like if Patrick and Spirit didn't open Enchanting Winds in the crossroads of Kansas City. I can't imagine what my life would have looked like if I didn't go back to work on the weekends for said bar several months before they opened that metaphysical shop. Every little thing, every little step has gotten me to where I am today. Here I am, sitting in my car, hanging out with you guys, telling you my story. I'm telling you my story to open up my YouTube channel, and this story just seems to resonate with the period of healing, the phase of healing, whatever that I am in currently. And I want to be transparent about where I'm at and what I'm doing in my life, and that is just me right now. I'm on this spiritual healing journey, and I'm on this motherhood journey, and I'm on this small business owner, woman owned business. Oh, this journey is so beautiful. If you're still with me, I know I see that we're at like 34 minutes on this video, but I know I clipped it a couple times. If you're still with me, thank you. I hope that any part of this resonated with you or that you found it interesting, and I would love it if you had questions. You would leave them in the comment section. Give me a follow. I promise not all my videos are going to be this long, but I feel like this is right. I just feel like this is right. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.